Coming up in today's newscast, violence erupts in two separate regions of the West Bank. Israeli athletes win a massive victory for equality at next month's Judo championship in Abu Dhabi. And drumroll please, we've got the rundown on the most popular Israeli baby names of the last year. Reports coming in now of turmoil and violence in the West Bank. Yesterday, Israeli forces clashed with Palestinian riders as they proceeded to demolish a series of Palestinian homes in East Jerusalem. Mere hours later, in a separate incident, a Palestinian was shot dead after allegedly approaching IDF troops with a knife in hand. This took place at a well-known army checkpoint inside the Palestinian West Bank near the Kiryat Arba settlement. According to the military statement, an IDF soldier immediately neutralized the potential assailant when he saw him approach, killing him on the spot. Witnesses at the scene, however, report a significantly different series of events. One Palestinian man who was allegedly there when the incident took place says that an armed Jewish settler was the one who opened fire on the suspect, a rather different account than the IDF's official statement on the matter.
فور وصولي للمكان سمعت ضوء 4 رصاصات. نظرت إلى الشارع خلفي وجدت جثمان الشهيد وائل ملقى على الأرض. طبعا الذي أطلق النار على الشهيد وائل هو مستوطن مر من المكان بسرعة عالية وأوقف السيارة بشكل مباشر وأطلق الرصاص.
This incident occurred just a few hours after Israeli forces demolished 4 Palestinian homes in the village of Al-Walajah, a village which uniquely straddles the green line separating Israel from the Palestinian West Bank. A controversial court decision declared that some of the homes in this village were illegally built and slated them to be evicted and demolished. But Palestinian residents argue that given the village's close proximity to Jerusalem, this is a political effort to wipe out Palestinian presence altogether. Israeli media recently reported that the Jerusalem municipality indeed had begun plans to convert this new territory into a national park. For now, evicted Palestinians say they intend to clean up the rubble and continue living in what's left of their homes, saying that they have nowhere else to go. The conflict over ultra-Orthodox enlistment into Israel's military is a contentious one, with many still bitterly embroiled in debate. While many see that community resisting the army draft with more and more extremism, the truth is that Haredi enlistment is today actually at an all-time high. In fact, just this past week, over 50 ultra-Orthodox soldiers were sworn into the elite paratroopers brigade. Well, aside from forced conscription, the IDF is now actually working on a marketing campaign specifically geared at increasing Haredi enlistment into the army. And with me here to discuss this is Rabbi Alia Konstantin, the founding rabbi at the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. Rabbi, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So first I want to ask, how do you feel about ultra-Orthodox enlisting into the army, period?
I think, first of all, it's a wonderful thing. I think that there's a real desire for amongst the younger Haredi to integrate into society and to be able to also burst out of the cycle of poverty, because what happens is that as long as they're studying in yeshiva, they have to be enlisted in the yeshiva and get a draft exemption. And as long as they have that draft exemption, they can't work or attend university or promote a career. So what ends up happening is that through the critical vital ages that they can really develop a career and a future for themselves, and they want to continue yeshiva study and study in a university or pursue a career, they can't because of this draft exemption while they're studying in yeshiva. And that's forcing this cycle of poverty that is very much weighing on that community. And there many of the Haredi community are very much desirous to break out of that and to be able to maintain their lifestyle while yet advance their family career and career.
Sure. Well, also with the army, I mean, as I understand it, young people, it's also an equalizing mixture of people from all over the country to meet new people, and you make connections that sometimes leads to careers or otherwise, just because, you're meeting people that you never met before.
Right.
But you brought up something interesting, which is we're seeing a lot of young people who do want to draft and who do want to go do this and break out. So is there a disconnect between maybe religious leaders who seem very vocal about resisting the draft versus the 18 to 24-year-olds who want to do it? Is there a disconnect there?
No question. I think, first of all, there's an issue of power. When you keep people in an insular bubble, you're able to control how they think, how they move, and what they do, and they can influence that with that power. However, once they go out and break out of that bubble, they're in this equalizer, like you mentioned, and meeting people of different types, that makes it a lot more scary for the leadership that they cannot necessarily maintain what they think is the necessary status quo to enable that status quo to continue. So that's a very big fear for the leadership. I think it also shows a weakness in the leadership, because if you instill and inculcate with good education that you believe in what you believe in and you can withstand the winds and tests of general society and return to be strong in who you are, that shows a true strong philosophy like you have in the Haredi yeshivot and the modern Orthodox, where they're able to withstand, let's say, the temptations or the winds of secular society, be able to stand in both worlds and maintain their Jewish culture and identity.
I guess that's the real fear that leaders have, is that they're going to go into the army, meet people that are not ultra-Orthodox, or be with women, be doing in situations that may challenge the strict religious code of their community, and then maybe never come back to it. I wonder if there's any studies or numbers done about people who do enlist, ultra-Orthodox who do enlist, whether they return to the community or whether they evolve from it, go a different way.
I can speak from personal experience from I do have Haredi family they have a son who did go to the army, and rather than estranging them, which many do unfortunately, there's the concept of Chaylim Bodadim, the lone soldier, that it's not just those who are coming to Israel without a family, there are also those who are estranged from their families because if you're going to enlist, we will have nothing to do with you, we'll sit Shiva and you don't exist. They didn't go that path. Luckily, they embraced it. They said they put certain conditions on it. He went to the army religious, and he returned from the army religious. And I think that more of that is becoming evident to the families. I think hopefully they'll more see that if you bring a proper education, the people will come back as you wish them to be and enable them to advance their lives.
Sure. Well,
and eliminate one of the most divisive issues in Israeli society because of this equalizing force. They're saying, okay, you're not participating, we're risking our lives and you're not. What hurts me even more are those who don't even pray for the benefit of the soldiers. Not only are they not serving, they're not praying for their benefit. And hopefully that there is a tide that is changing, an appreciation for those who are serving and even a desire to serve themselves.
Sure, that's undoubtedly one of the biggest internal, I think, dilemmas that the Israeli society has faced.
Yes.
The people who do and don't draft, that's a whole other topic. Either way, we'll probably talk about another time.
Okay.
Rabbi, thank you.
My pleasure.
Of course. Well, we've just learned that Iran may be spreading its resources even wider than previously suspected. Word is that the regime's military is transferring a fleet of ballistic missiles to provinces in Iraq, and if true, this would put Israel well within striking range. Israeli leaders have addressed this potential threat by promising that Israel could and would launch a preemptive strike anywhere in the world in order to protect itself. The idea of hundreds of ballistics in Iraqi territory is certainly disconcerting, but may not in and of itself be a direct message to Israel. Many believe that it may have more to do with the Iranian, Iraqi, Saudi oil triangle than an outright military affront. Having said that, new reports have just come in mere hours ago suggesting that Iran has been transferring weapons equipment to Hezbollah using ordinary commercial flights. 2 commercial flights from Tehran to Beirut have been linked to weapons smuggling. Both flights were flagged by intelligence teams when they made irregular navigations or even stopovers in central and northern Syria. It's believed that Iranian forces managed to smuggle equipment for weapons plants on these unscheduled 747 flights. Iran has been funding and funneling Hezbollah campaigns in both Lebanon and southern Syria for years now, effectively placing a well-armed proxy army right on Israel's doorstep. Many believe that the relative calm on Israel's northern border may soon be coming to an end, especially with Syrian and Iranian forces soon to siege the final rebel holdout in southern Syria. All sides may indeed be bracing for impact once that dust settles. Well, as long as we're on the subject of planes, Israel's own skyways are about to get very congested during the busiest time of the season. That's because Russia is preparing to begin a massive military drill around the Mediterranean region. Israel's Airport Authority predicts that these exercises will likely require massive reorienting of hundreds of Israeli flights, with big delays all but expected. The Russian Navy will commence its wide-scale military exercises in Mediterranean waters sometime later this week, and it's expected to conclude them this Saturday. Now, this time frame, however, coincides directly with perhaps one of the busiest travel occasions on the Israeli calendar, as it falls mere days before the Rosh Hashanah New Year holiday. Typically, this is a day when families travel far and wide to celebrate their new year, and this year, Rosh Hashanah falls right against a weekend, giving people an extra long weekend holiday to take off from work. Well, flight officials say that unfortunately those travel plans may very well feel the wrath of Russia's military exercises that impact. The drill will engage a fleet of Russian ships and aircraft for joint maneuvers. Needless to say, you can expect long wait times with planes delayed on the runways and a domino effect of delays for longer international journeys if you've got connections. Now, before this drill was announced, authorities expected a massive influx of some 650 flights on this Thursday alone. Travelers headed either to or from Israel this weekend may want to pack an extra book just in case the wait is long. A major victory just now for Israeli athletes competing in the International Forum. Ahead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam Judo tournament next month, the United Arab Emirates has announced that this year all athletes will be welcomed to compete in a fair and equal arena, a very significant turnaround from past years when Israeli athletes were either not allowed to present their flag or worse, weren't allowed to compete at all. For many, this announcement is a long time coming. Sports and culture is typically seen as one of the few places where bridges for peace can be built overcoming politics, which is why the UAE's past exclusion or discrimination of Israeli athletes from the world of judo has been so especially painful. Officially, the UAE and Israel have no formal ties, nor does the Emirates officially recognize Israel's right to exist. Now, having said that, it's practically an open secret that the two nations have widely engaged in both security and business relations, with many Israelis traveling freely to and from the UAE in recent years. In the sports arena, however, the UAE has resisted pressure to formally welcome Israelis with open arms, most likely due to the participation of other Arab nations with less favorable Israeli ties. Iranian athletes, for example, have often faced government pressure to refuse from competing against Israeli opponents to begin with, but that behavior, as well as regional discrimination, has finally reached a breaking point. Last year, the Judo Federation revoked Abu Dhabi's hosting duties for this tournament after officials refused to let Israeli winners play their national anthem or brandish their flag at the medal awarding ceremonies. Well, fortunately, that's looking like a thing of the past now. The UAE Judo Federation has officially announced that this October, all nations will be able to display their national insignia and national anthem, including Israel. So no matter who wins gold, silver, or bronze this October, everyone's a winner with this historic stepping stone for equality. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte continues his tour of Israel today, the first ever visit to Israel from a sitting Philippine president. But the visit has captured global interest for reasons beyond its simple rarity. President Duterte's presidency has long been plagued with accusations of war crimes, human rights violations, sexism, and gross abuse of power, leaving many asking why he was invited to Israel in the first place and why he's being embraced with such open arms. ILTV's Aaron Porce is here with more on this story as it unfolds. And Aaron, can you break down what's happened so far with this trip?
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, you did a pretty good job of starting us off. But basically, President Duterte brings with him the kind of reputation that not many world leaders would want to entertain. I know that just ahead of meeting with President Rivlin, for example, the Duterte envoy was met with protests both directed at him and at Rivlin, asking that Rivlin suspend their meeting altogether. And it makes sense. Duterte has consistently made comments so outrageous that the Israeli government has been trying to keep press away from much of the tour.
Right.
And even then, he's gotten into hot water.
Right.
One of the first things Duterte did after landing was defend comments he recently made regarding how rape was inevitable as long as attractive women were around. And that's, again, aside from his gleefully likening himself to Hitler with respect to the annihilation of alleged drug abusers and dealers.
Right. Now, speaking of those comments, because this is important, Duterte has been accused of basically ordering police in his own country to carry out extrajudicial execution-style murders under the fake smokescreen of a war on drugs. He says it's to root out drug dealers. Most believe that of the thousands killed over the last year alone, the majority have been mostly innocent poor people. Now, Duterte later offered a form of apology for that Hitler comparison, as you mentioned, but that's why for many, the apology was too little too late, you could say, and why it's uncomfortable for many Israelis to see Duterte standing alongside their Prime Minister, Netanyahu, at the Holocaust Memorial, no less.
Yeah, no, so along those lines, let's dig a bit deeper into Duterte's administration. With, many within the Philippine government opposition parties, as well as rights lawyers, activists, etc., have asked that the International Criminal Court take action against Duterte.
Right.
Then in February of 2018, the ICC actually answered that call and announced that a preliminary examination into Duterte's alleged war crimes would be initiated. In response, Duterte pulled the Philippines out of the ICC and the Rome Statute so that he could escape the ICC's jurisdiction. He even threatened ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda, saying that if she came into the country, he would have her arrested. And I wouldn't call his bluff. In fact, today, from here in Israel, Duterte revoked the amnesty of a political opponent, a senator in his own government by the name of Antonio Trillanes, and he called for Trillanes' arrest. He also detained former Justice Secretary Leila de Lima for a year and a half on supposedly trumped-up drug-related charges. So it's not out of the question.
Right. So I guess that brings us to the question, given this track record, these accusations, what does Israel see themselves getting out of this? Because I can tell you, a lot of Israelis, even ones who greatly support Prime Minister, whatever he does, it's difficult for them to see their leaders standing side by side with a guy like Duterte and publicly saying out loud in front of the press, hey, we're friends.
All right, well, yeah, it's an interesting question. On the one hand, the bottom line from Israel's perspective, at least, is that you're judged by the company you keep. So despite positive relations between the countries with respect to foreign workers in Israel or oil sales or whatever. In the end, the question is, what kind of message is Israel trying to send by entertaining a man with this kind of record? Is it worth that potential vote in the international forums that Israel might gain? Is it worth being associated with a tyrannical or dictatorial government? Is it worth whatever the Philippines may be or may not be paying for oil or arms, etc.? Is it worth the PR nightmare that's been following Duterte like a shadow? Time will tell, but I think many Israelis have made it very clear that they would answer no.
Right, so tomorrow Duterte continues his visit to Israel. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to reflect on when that comes to an end. In the meantime, thank you for the update, Aaron.
Thanks.
So we have a bit of a paradox on our hands. As we've reported in the past, the Mediterranean diet typically eaten by Israelis is one of the healthiest out there. But a new report, however, suggests that maybe Israelis aren't quite as healthy as you would think. In fact, nearly half of all Israeli adults are actually overweight, a trend that's been the status quo for the past 8 years. These numbers come from the Central Bureau of Statistics, and they offer a less than ideal portrait of the average Israeli health profile. Some 55% of all Israeli men over the age of 20 are statistically overweight, with only 18% of all men in the country regularly dieting. The numbers are a bit softer for women. At this time, roughly 41% of all Israeli women are believed to be overweight, though nearly a quarter of all women in the country do say that they do regularly diet. Now, these numbers are more or less in line with similar health studies conducted in 2010. That's neither good news nor bad news, though some would argue that in this case, no progress means bad progress. But the figures do contrast strangely when compared to the average Israeli diet. While obesity is certainly linked to a myriad of genetic factors, a healthy diet balanced with regular exercise is often the prescribed key to bringing down unhealthy weight. Nearly half of Israelis report eating healthy fruits and veggies regularly, with nearly a third eating fish on a regular basis and a quarter eating processed meat 3 times a week or less. Now, this survey doesn't cover critical details like exercise, food ratios, or serving sizes, but considering obesity can complicate other major health factors, including cholesterol, heart disease, mood, and more, I'd say it's time to take a hard look at the numbers on the scale and evaluate your diet. After all, this is your health we're talking about. Now, if you've been itching for a little of the old razzle-dazzle, well, you've come to the right place. Next month, Israeli starlet Shili Maimon will make her Broadway debut in the new run of the hit musical Chicago. But if you don't find yourself in New York City this September, then have no fear. Maimon will be bringing Chicago to Tel Aviv in March for a limited week-long only engagement. It's going to be worth it. One of the most beloved musicals to ever grace the stage, Chicago tells the story of wannabe starlet Roxy Hart, who falls into infamy after murdering a jilted lover. What follows is a musically laced satire of intrigue, judicial corruption, and jazz set in the 1920s. Israel's very own star of the stage, Shili Maimon, will be the focus of global attention when she takes center stage as Roxy Hart on Broadway mere weeks away. She'll only be headlining the role for about 2 weeks on Broadway, but needless to say, these are 2 massive weeks headlining one of Broadway's most legendary revivals. But good news for Israeli fans hoping to catch their local star in the role. Maimon will be bringing the Broadway production to Tel Aviv this coming March for a limited time run of 7 shows only. Pre-sale tickets are now on sale for the Charles Bronfman Auditorium. They'll set you back anywhere from $70 to $135, but hey, that's showbiz for you. All that jazz ain't always cheap, but it's usually worth it. So typically when you think of Jerusalem, maybe 2 words come to mind: religion and politics. And while that instinct certainly isn't wrong, there's of course a whole lot more to the holy city than meets the eye. And here to tell us all about that is the Vice President of the City of David Foundation, Doron Spielman. Doron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Brett.
Of course. So tell me, what's new in the City of David, a very, very old city?
So you're right when you say an old city. The City of David is actually 4,000 years old. But the amazing thing is that only up until a few years ago, we didn't even know it existed. The word Jerusalem has incredible name recognition all over the world.
Sure.
Most people imagine the city inside the walls, but the City of David, the original little peninsula of Jerusalem, is actually outside the city walls. And excavations that we've been carrying on, which today are some of the largest excavations in Israel, have unearthed that, and everyday things are new.
Sure. So, yeah, I feel like we're in the news business. We're all the time seeing new things discovered, either right outside the gates or right in the City of David. So what new things have you discovered? What's the newest thing you have? I understand there's something called Pilgrimage Road, I think, right?
That's correct. Very good. The Pilgrimage Road is an unbelievable thing. We found a pool at the southern part of the City of David, and we realized this pool, the size of 2 Olympic-sized pools, was an ancient mikveh, or ritual bath, to lead people up to the Temple Mount. And we found leading from that pool an ancient road, the actual pilgrimage road, where the stones have been worn smooth by the sandals of the feet of people thousands of years ago that ascended to the temple. That road now is being peeled off layer by layer like an onion. And you can come and see it, touch the stones, and we've unearthed incredible treasures of that journey.
Sure. Again, yeah, we're seeing all the time things being found. Can you tell me about that process, like working with the Israel Antiquities Authority and working with archaeologists? Because of course it's, for many years, you couldn't do, no one could do archaeological digs in Jerusalem. So what has it been like to finally get teams in and find new things and just kind of dig back through history?
Well, when I speak to the archaeologists, they tell me that this is their dream.
Sure.
It was like looking at a playground inside a glass ball and all of a sudden being able to go into it. So, we work with the archaeologists. They're digging down through the layers. Today we have technology, much of it Israeli technology, that gives you like a radio picture, almost like you can see water underneath the ground.
Wow, like underneath the ground, you can do a radio, like a video satellite underground.
That's right. And we go down and we see a water cistern, and then next to it, a house. And this is all along the road. We found a golden bell, which may be the golden bell worn by the high priest,
wow,
which is mentioned in the book of Exodus. And you constantly, every day, uncover coins that relate back to the revolt of the Jews against the Romans, the last minutes before the destruction of Israel 2,000 years ago. And of course, to go there and see Israeli soldiers and tourists from all over the world,
sure,
it just shows the rebirth of Israel.
This is a loaded question, but there's so much to see in the city of David. What's your favorite thing in the city of David?
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
Hard one.
That is a hard one. My
I know.
favorite place in
Yeah.
the city of David is a place you need a special key to go into, but you can go. It's an underground cave deep inside the mountain, the city of David, where you can hear the sounds of the water dripping. And in that cave, 2,700 years ago, King Hezekiah and Isaiah the prophet held off the Assyrian army. At one of the most important points in the Jewish faith in the Bible, when Assyria, the world power, says, "Leave the gates of your city and join us," and Hezekiah and Isaiah stand firm, and because of that, the Jewish people are still around today, and the extension, Christianity and Islam, flow out of that. And all began in this little cave where they had to make that decision. Should I go and join my enemies, or should I stand firm and be with the people of Israel? And of course, they stood with the people of Israel.
Yeah, one thing I love about archaeology and the city of David is no exception to that. Every time I go to the city of David, I find something new I never saw before. I get lost, find something new I never thought I would find, and I'm reminded that regardless of religion and race, history is so much deeper than we thought, and I love finding places like City of David where really there's places where everyone can come together and have a place to connect to. So anyone at home watching, that's the top of your list to go visit. Doron, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Okay, sometimes people call Israel something of a baby-crazy country, and I will admit sometimes it does feel like everyone and their neighbor won't stop asking you if and when you're having a baby, or your next baby, or your next 10 babies. Well, to add a little more fodder to that, Israel's Population and Immigration Authority have just announced their official state findings on the most popular baby names of the past year. Drum roll, please.
Coming in at number 1 in the boys category for many years running now is the name Muhammad, followed by Ariel, David, Lavi, Ori, Yosef, Eran, Noam, Daniel, Itai, and finally, Judah. And in the girls category, the heavyweight champion, Tamar, followed by Abigail, Yael, Adele, Noah, Sarah, Shira, Noya, Esther, and Talia. And there you have it, the most popular baby names in Israel for the past year. With the Hebrew New Year of Rosh Hashanah just a weekend away, the country is taking a big look back at the past year. Now, in addition to baby names, the Population Authority has announced statistics on a wide range of family-related info. This year, for example, it turns out that exactly 168,441 babies were born in the country. That is a whole lot of dirty diapers. Over 61,000 marriages were registered, along with nearly 25,000 divorces, and nearly 25,000 immigrants immigrated into the country, up just slightly from last year. Who knows what next year will bring, as long as it's more love, more life, and more prosperity.
And now it's time for our Hebrew word of the day. With the holidays on the horizon, Israelis are packing their bags and getting ready for a nice long vacation. That's why today's word is mizvada, which is how you call a suitcase in Hebrew. Yeah, sometimes the only travel companion you ever need is a good sturdy mizvada, a suitcase. Now, an ideal mizvada for flying is usually light because you've got to, lug it around everywhere you go. And it's best if your mizvada is also rock solid because, yeah, it's probably going to get banged around quite a bit on the plane. But as we all know, a good mizvada should also be just big enough to get all your souvenirs back home while being just small enough to sneak under the carry-on size limit. And sometimes a good mizvada is quite hard to find. And that's what a look at the weather forecast. Tonight and tomorrow are both supposed to be clear and sunny with little change in temperatures. The low tonight should be about 77 or 25 degrees Celsius, and tomorrow the high will be around 88 or 31 degrees Celsius. Well, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.62 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News, and of course on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Brett Allen Smith. Thanks for watching.